My name is Marie Koschmieder. I own Walking Stick Adventures. It's a small seasonal business out west of Williamsburg. I've lived here for 29 years, and I worked for the county for 19 of those years. And so I have seen things, so to speak, from both sides. I understand what it's like to have somebody come to a board meeting and tell you what you should do and so on and so forth. I also understand that a lot of times local leaders really make decisions with the best of intentions, and sometimes those decisions don't go well. And I can say that that's happened to me personally, and I would like it not to happen again to anybody. I'm asking you to consider creating a new written ordinance that would include the ideas that were brought to your attention last Friday and over the last couple months. Last week, many people attended the meeting with well-prepared comments, suggestions, and research to back it up. And I know that you have hard copies of all those statements. I know that there has been information provided to you over the summer, not just opinions, but information provided to you over the summer. And I'm asking you, because I believe this is one of those things where good intentions have turned sour, and it's not necessarily something that we can undo. We can't undo part of it, but we can reconsider what we're gonna do moving forward. So I would like to request that you guys put a good faith effort into a new ordinance that protects all the people in Iowa County. There were 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people that signed the petition. There have been hundreds of people at these meetings on Fridays taking time off of work to come and talk to you about their concerns, good and bad. There's a lot of people that are angry and frustrated and feel betrayed. And so it's a very emotional thing, because some of us are losing our livelihood, some of us are losing our property values, some of us are afraid of the health concerns. I have not seen in the 29 years that I've lived here anything that is comparable to the number of people that are working on this and trying to help you guys make good decisions. And I'm asking you again to reconsider a new ordinance that includes some of the setback information, some of the additions or the things that were left out of the first agreement, such as the English River area, some of the wildlife issues that were brought up that were never included. These are important things to us, and I'm asking you to really think about this, because I do believe that you guys can undo any future problems that we're going to have with this issue. I don't have anything else to say. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any proposal of what should be done at this point? What do you think? Any specifics?
You know,
you suggested?
I heard, if I was to do this, I know that you have a copy of an ordinance. That ordinance was not, that would be a good place to start, but there were very good ideas and things brought up last week. You guys have written copies of those. Those things can be added, or compromises to those things that can be added to that. I don't know how you write an ordinance. I assume that you start with a format. But I'm not gonna go over all those ideas again. There were some very good, well thought out, well presented ideas last week that people brought to your attention. They are the same things that have been brought up before. I would like you to look at those things and start over, because it's time. We can do this for a long time, and not get anywhere. I'm asking you to sit down and take a look at what has been done and what we can do now for the future, because that's what's really important.
Are you going to discuss in front of us
What do you want us to discuss?
a new ordinance?
What do you think, are you guys, I were just curious, are you guys going to write a new one? I guess that's my first question, are you guys gonna write a new ordinance?
I was just speaking for myself, I'm still in favor of an ordinance, because the alternative, I mean, I know there were a lot of objections to the one we discussed last week and other times, but I still think we are better, that's why I introduced it for vote, is still think we're better off with an ordinance than not. Of course, obviously, the disagreement on setbacks and other issues is the sticking point. I talked to James Johnson yesterday and got a lot of input from him and his ideas too, and discussed would, before it was two of us meeting with the county attorney, but he was, I won't say your thing for you, but talk about getting a group to try to work together to try to work something out. I don't know who that would be exactly or that type of thing, but
Is everybody else in favor of reading?
I'm not,
You don't want a new ordinance?
no, and I don't either. I think it's I really think this is a farmer thing, and a lot of other people you have acreages, but I still think if the farmer wants to do with their land, they should be able to do what they want to do.
But
What if that interferes with the neighboring property owner's rights?
Don't care about that.
Rebecca.
How do you
you care
protect
about-
the other people? So
Vicki,
these
can I
other
say
people
something?
don't
Well, I'm
matter?
gonna have to go back to what Dale said at one of the first meetings. He said, maybe when you move out to the country, you should have to buy more than, buy 80 acres.
That would be if 80 acres actually protected you from a wind turbine, but if you listen to what I said at the hearing last week, I showed you a diagram. Even at 700 feet, this is gonna be 0 feet from a property line. That builds 1,250 radius that I can't build on my own property because of what my neighbor did. So if you're gonna fight for their property rights, you better damn well fight for mine.
Vicki, can I say something
Sure,
to
you
you?
can.
I have 10 acres. I have 4 of it that is, I've created a wildlife area out there. I've planted prairie. I've planted 600 trees. I go out every year and I cut and I dig and I spray thistles, Canada thistles and bull thistles. Now, I do that because my neighbors are farmers, all of them. If I didn't do that, it would be in my right not to waste any time on weeding those weeds out. But I do it because I know that my neighbors do not want those things in their fields. I also know that there's a law that forces me to do it, an ordinance, so to speak, so that I have to go out and do that to protect my neighbor's land. I do that on my own because I appreciate my neighbors and what they do. How is that any different from putting up a wind turbine that directly affects the sound, my health, my view, my open spaces, my business? Next summer will probably be my last summer. Nobody from Chicago is gonna wanna come down and stay at my house and look over a field of blinking red lights. My open spaces had value. You've taken that value away by supporting this project. How is that different from the thistles in my field? It's not. So what my neighbors do affects me, what I do affects them. And you cannot pick and choose which parts matter and which parts don't.
I guess I thought the neighbors had been right on top of everybody telling them what to do because they didn't want them to do it.
I do own over 80 acres.
good.
I do own over 80 acres. Please consider me and my family.
Shouldn't matter if you own 10 acres or 8 acres.
And why are you guys not letting the cities, the towns that have come to you guys, the councils that have got together and voted on this, Parnell, Victor, Ladora, these towns have got together and voted that they want the 2-mile zoning and an ordinance to protect them. Why would you guys not want to have an ordinance to help these towns? Instead, you want these towns to have to use their money to do zoning. And I will support Parnell 100%, even though I don't live in Parnell, to do that 2-mile. But why would you guys not want an ordinance? We're not telling you to write an ordinance to tell Mr. Dermody he can't build a building on his ground or a shape boat, that she can't have a turbine outside her door. We're asking for an ordinance to work with both groups, so I don't understand why, Vicki, why would you not want something regarding wind turbines to help both sides? It's not about property rights.
I believe at the last meeting I was talking to Lou about that, and if I understood him right, that each city can have their own ordinance without zoning to protect themselves.
So
I
Parnell
really
can
can't.
continue.
I've got the state on it, I asked the state, and they said no. You have
I'm
to,
just going by our legal counsel.
I know, but that's the state about that.
That way,
I'd like to know who is the person that Mr. Adams referenced. I don't know who James Johnson is. Is he a realtor?
He's here
Is he-
today.
Right here.
is he a-
Couple, three rows
but are you-
behind you.
I mean,
Yes, I saw him at Ladora last week, and he asked to speak to me yesterday, met yesterday for about an hour.
I think we need a committee put together of citizens to help the board formulate a plan and new ordinance.
We are
I
the
guess-
citizen committee.
I guess I'm just flabbergasted after that hearing, one after another. I counted, I think, 35 people, 30 people. I can't remember, but I counted at least 3 dozen people came to you guys in support of changes to an ordinance, but obviously wanting a wind ordinance. Then you had 5 people that said no, and now all of a sudden there's no wind ordinance. What happened in that meantime? What was the point of that hearing if you're not gonna even listen to what anybody said? You listened to 5 people over the almost 30 that came to you that day. Why? Why, John?
I fundamentally disagree.
Why don't you want an ordinance? What is the reasoning?
I don't think you're ever gonna get along,
Yes,
period.
we will. We
I do, I think if you have the right people.
John,
Jim,
what is your
Jim right
philosophy
here.
about this?
I think there's reasonable people here.
Yes.
What is your
I think
philosophy
that
about
you
this,
have
John?
a-
I'm just
You
curious.
have a really big group and you have a grassroots effort, and if you contact all your neighbors and you talk to your neighbors and you all side together, there won't be any more windmills.
That's right.
Let's put it on the
You have the
ballot.
power.
Put it on the ballot.
It is on the ballot every 4 years, every 2 years.
No,
Get a
that's
small
not
committee
fair.
with both sides represented. You can have both sides represented in the committee. It doesn't have to be a mass majority of people that don't want the turbines.
There can be a middle ground. We can reach a middle ground if we want to.
We need
Can
common
you-
sense, common sense. If you're here to represent the people of Iowa County, why are you letting other companies come in that don't live here direct where we're going? That's what I don't understand. John, I don't
I
understand.
didn't let them come in. They came in and they talked to your friends and their neighbors and they signed them up. They have every legitimate right to do that.
But you're supporting them.
I'm not supporting them.
You're supporting them by
That's the
not
reason.
allowing
Wait, one at a time,
That's
please.
protection.
You signed this agreement with them that does not protect Iowa County.
Doesn't serve the best interest.
You don't even have a decommissioning agreement with them. That hasn't been done yet, and they're doing construction. Why is construction happening without a decommissioning agreement?
Why?
Mhm.
Why is construction having that decommissioning agreement?
It's all in the attorney's hands at this point.
You guys have no
Where's
leverage.
our commissioning agreement is in,
Yeah.
so when will it be given to the
Hasn't
public?
signed yet, you know?
No, it's not signed yet. We haven't approved it yet. I don't know.
So what's the outline of that
When do you
particular
plan on
agreement?
putting that
What's the what?
What's the outline of that agreement? What
It's
would
on the
you-
webpage. Is it on the webpage?
No,
We've never seen
So
anything
when they're,
about.
when they're decommissioned, what happens to those at this point in time?
When they're decommissioned?
Yeah.
They take them down.
They do.
According to the plan.
What would be-
What if they go bankrupt and they can't take them down?
according to this agreement that you signed, number 6, this agreement does not supersede or replace the understanding that Mid-American will provide the county separate agreements for road use and for decommissioning, the latter based on the agreement used in Union County. Here's Union County's agreement, which they have not signed, by the way. It's just kind of blank. The owner will be responsible for all costs to decommission the WEX in accordance with the decommissioning plan and the easement agreements. The decommissioning activities will be funded by the proceeds from one or more of the following, and there's 2 things. 1, the proceeds from the salvage and scrap value. The other one, other owner funding. There's no escrow account. There's no funding put up front for it. It's just whatever company bought it and is left with the graveyard at the end, if they're still in existence, they will probably be bankrupt because this whole thing is not feasible. The industry of the wind energy is not feasible.
As before.
Kevin, what is your opinion? Are
Yeah,
you
you haven't said.
I'm still for the ordinance. You sure you argue a lot, but the last ordinance was not that bad. It did not have everything you wanted, but it covered a lot of the bases. I was really hoping that it would pass and be amended as we went along. Because I don't think we'll ever make everybody happy with everything that they want. Because every time we get to one stage, something else comes up, and I get it. But I don't know how you ever encompass everything.
It's just like the sale of a house. You had the price on your house, we made a counter offer. Come back to us. Let's find a middle ground.
Well, that's what I was hoping we would pass the first time. We could have got into the amendment part and added, we forgot this, or we didn't think of this, we should have done this. So you would have had something in place now.
So what happens with the board if 2 members are in favor, 2 are not, and Ray, of course, has removed himself because of the easement? So now that's a tie, so how do you determine whether or not you'll write an ordinance?
I'm afraid, if I understand it, a tie is a lack of action.
Yep, it wouldn't pass.
Tie does not pass.
Kevin, 3 things. I want to make sure I totally understand this, and is the board as a whole not willing to rewrite an ordinance?
The board is in a tie.
It's in a tie. Okay, because I got in here late. Okay, so it's a tie. Okay. Number 2, we've got multiple municipalities in the county that have asked for the setback. And the status is it'll be an action, an inaction, not happening.
It'll be, if I understand it, it'll be an action, since we don't have an ordinance to put it into.
I didn't hear that.
We don't have an ordinance to put it into.
Okay. And number 3, you are working with legal about a decommissioning,
Correct.
and that's the county legal and the Mid-America legal.
Yes,
Are there any other entities involved in that?
not that I'm aware of.
And what is your time frame for that? 30 days, 60, 90?
I'll have to give Lou a call after the meeting.
I would think it could get approved next week.
Yeah,
or the next
I
week.
don't know what's this, hold on.
Why would you allow construction to begin without knowing what you're gonna do with them at the end of their life?
We both became to agreement that we both would have a decommissioning agreement.
It's good faith
And
negotiation.
it's written.
But if it's no better good faith and you're working with your public right now, what good is that? I mean, what if they just say, well, we're not gonna do anything with it, it's your responsibility, county, you get rid of them. You don't have anything in place, they're already building them, what are you gonna do?
My thought is on that, you've lost your leverage in your, I I guess you're negotiating on that. They're in completing construction, what can you do to really hurt them if they don't wanna come your way? If they don't wanna adequately protect our county with the accurate amount of dollars that you guys are gonna need to take them down, what are you guys gonna use as leverage? Before, if you didn't have construction started, gave them the full free access, you could have said, you can't start construction until we come to an agreement and put your foot down and made them pay their money out.
I believe, I haven't seen it, but not every farmer who's signed up has their own decommissioning plan. Each landlord.
So what do you mean? Can you describe that to me? Like, it's between the company and the
You,
farmer?
let's say you put a windmill up, you have one between you and the windmill company.
Sherry, can you
But
confirm that?
so
You have your own decommissioning?
We have in our signed agreement with them that windmill would be completely removed from our property.
But the money's
At no
not there.
expense to us. The concrete will be removed 6 feet down, and that's in our agreement.
But the problem is the money, so then the county, you won't be responsible, but the county could be responsible. If they only give them, I'm just gonna throw out random.
Why would we be responsible for taking down their
If
windmill?
you get, it's happened before in other counties.
Why would we be responsible, we not responsible, if your confinements go bad, we're not responsible for
No,
taking it down?
but you guys are getting the funds up front to take them down.
You just
Let's
said
say
we
they
didn't
give
have
you-
one.
Can you please let me put this out there? Let's say they give you $300,000, just a random number, and it really costs $450,000. Where's that money gonna come from to take them down? They're already in an agreement that they're not gonna pay for it. Who's gonna pay for it?
It's not the county
Yes, it
that
is.
is taking
It's
them
happened
down.
before.
It's the company.
But the county gets
energy
the money,
company
the
that
county
will
gets
take
the
them down.
money
That's
to
what's
take
in our
them down.
agreement.
The county gets the money. And now they're liable. The liability is all on them because they're getting the money. And if there's not enough money,
You just said we
where's it
didn't,
gonna
you
come
just said we
from? A
didn't
money
have,
tree?
you just said we didn't have a decommissioning plan. So then that point's moot. The agreement's between them and the company.
Yeah, but you're gonna get a decommissioning plan. And now that you guys are gonna be liable. It's happened before in other counties. That's what we're trying to warn you. That's why we're trying to help you guys make this, but anything that we pitch at you guys immediately gets thrown in the trash. You don't even wanna consider anything that we have to say.
I believe the ordinance that we wrote had a lot of the stuff that you wanted.
It has some, yeah, and we're negotiating. We're not saying that you had to
And I thought
stop
we did in
it.
good faith, did negotiate. You didn't have everything you wanted, and we had more than we thought was needed.
Was there nothing, Vicki and John, that you guys heard last week that you was, yeah, we probably should have that in there? Or did you, from the get-go, before you
I
walked
just
in
think
last
you
week?
people come in here with closed eyes. You weren't gonna change anything.
We're not deciding, we're not
Okay,
gonna
that
change it.
wasn't quite my question. So you did not hear anything last week that you thought would be a good idea, protecting the English, the towns wanting their 2 mile, none
Well,
of.
personally, coming from Millersburg, I think Millersburg ought to put a tower down on the ball diamond and create some money for themselves, cause they're broke. I mean, these small towns
I thought
should
the ordinance
have their
was a
own
little
little.
too strict.
Too strict?
Yeah.
But you wrote it.
Kev-
But you wrote
yeah, well, that's okay. You can write something you don't
Right.
agree with. I did what the public wanted. Didn't mean I was in favor of it. Kevin
now
and I
that you have
argued over,
anything?
just relax a second. Kevin and I argued over the 2,000 feet. I wanted 1,800 feet. Kevin wanted 2,000 feet.
And where's the 2,000 come from?
Jeannie sent me a letter once that it wanted 2,000.
And so we pulled it out of the hat
Well,
to kind of meet in the
Jeannie had
middle
requested
on
one time.
the 1,600 or the 1,300 and the half mile.
So you're not concerned about turbines around you or your family or?
I'm not.
How many are you gonna have around your place?
0.
Why is that?
How do you know that?
Oh, you're just not gonna sign, so.
How do
It's
you
not
know
part of the
that?
project.
It's not part of the project.
How do you know that project won't continue through Iowa?
It
Or
has
another
boundaries.
project? Pardon me, sorry, what?
It has boundaries.
It does have boundaries. So no, we have something in place that it can't continue through the county.
They can, it could have to be another
Wait,
project.
wait.
It would have
John,
to be another project.
Okay, but can you guarantee me?
I'm not gonna guarantee you anything.
Okay.
Nothing in life is guaranteed.
There could be in Iowa County if you supervisors put it in place.
So
Put
you
a
don't,
moratorium on them until we know how we like the ones that are coming.
So if you don't,
I just
write an
disagree
ordinance,
with you.
if you won't write an ordinance, put a moratorium. 18 months, 2 years.
That
Keep
won't
it
hurt
going.
anything.
Can you follow Madison County? I don't understand why the Board of Health down there can get this moratorium while more information is gathered, But you just flat out said, no, the Board of Health said, no, we're not gonna stop it.
I'm not gonna comment on the Madison County Board of Health.
Why? Because they made progress?
No, because they have people that are on the Board of Health that are against windmills, and the state told them that they shouldn't get into it. And so,
Because they're
yeah.
doing the right thing.
It's-
Yeah.
Yes.
John, you made a comment, probably when we first started coming here, that there would be no wind turbines east of Williamsburg. Is that still true?
In this project, yes.
I don't mean this project, I mean from now on with anybody coming in here.
I don't know.
Even Mid-America that's already here.
I'm not on Mid-America's payroll, so I don't have any.
Oh, I'm not asking you that. You made that comment, do you still stick to it, that there will be no turbines east of
No.
Williamsburg?
Nope.
Well, then why the hell did you say it?
Well, because at the time, that was the button, that everybody wanted to know, are they gonna be east of Williamsburg? No, they weren't gonna be east of Williamsburg.
So right now.
That's what everybody was concerned about at that
But you
time.
called somebody up after the meeting that and reassured him, don't worry about it, they're not gonna be any.
For this, in this project.
Yeah.
And
And
this
the wind
project
dies
is
off.
Diamond
You did
Trail
not clarify
property.
And
this
the wind-
project, John.
and the wind dies
You did not
off.
say this project.
And the wind dies off on the east side of Iowa County. I just sat with the chairman of the Johnson County Supervisors yesterday and asked her that same conversation. If they were getting wind energy and they have none.
No, they're-
Because
they're
they have a
not allowed to
decommissioning
win.
agreement
Yes,
that
I
is
know.
strongly written.
We farm on the Johnson Iowa County line, I tell you what, the wind is the same on the Iowa County side as the Johnson County side. That is an invalid statement. I am sorry.
Thanks for
So
your
are you,
opinion.
are you saying though that because there is a tie, there will be no ordinance, or is that yet to be determined?
I think it's still being discussed here, just as a.
No, it's not on the record.
How about the board? Can you guys discuss and decide, maybe instead of us yelling at you, maybe you could discuss between you guys and come to an idea or an understanding? Could that happen?
Could we get a small group?
Didn't
A
somebody
small
propose a
group,
committee?
just much like Bruce met with Jim, to talk about this in a more sensible manner. Because right now, I think it's just, there's too many emotions, and I think, again, the smaller group to talk about the next steps, to protect Iowa County.
Who gets to pick, who's the group? That could be a question.
You guys.
If you want to.
Well,
You
then,
guys.
that'll look kind of odd.
Pick
Right.
two from each side and one.
Because what if we pick the wrong people, you know what I'm saying?
Just pick two from each side.
You know what, that's,
I don't work like it's favoritism.
There you go.
Right.
Good idea.
we, the pro-win picks two people, anti-win pick two people to sit down.
And you guys appoint a neutral person.
I just don't think that is too hard to agree with.
You mentioned a neutral person yesterday also. I don't know how we would find a neutral person. That would be challenging.
There are.
There's quite a few out there.
I know one, I can give you a name.
I have a couple too.
I was wondering, were you advocating that if we wanna stop any future construction of turbines in this county, that the best way to do it is to form land blockades?
Yes.
Then why don't you tell people that?
I thought I
Why do you just arbitrarily make this decision, you put this much in the paper? Yesterday mowing lawn, had a neighbor come by and he had no idea that turbines were even in the county. He lives here for 27 years and he's like, what do you mean they're putting turbines in this county? He's a civil engineer in Cedar Rapids and he didn't know about this in this county.
I don't think that's
So I don't think-
No.
Back to that, again,
Maybe he doesn't have KCRG news.
so back to that, you're advocating.
I'm not advocating, I'm just
blockades.
saying that that's how you can stop it.
I still would like a
Grassroots.
small group. I would really like you guys to consider a smaller group.
Dale?
I listen, you know, how they wanna work. Well, we sat here last week, the ordinance that was in front of you, and I'm not here to stir your pots. The 2,000 foot, you heard it from Invenergy and Mid-American both, does not work. And that wasn't acceptable to you. So ultimately, in listening today, and since you said, let's get a meeting or a group together and try and do this, but right after that, we heard about a moratorium for 1 year, 2 years, all this stuff. I don't think it's something you can Band-Aid up anymore. I don't know. If they're truly from the, you know, if we truly want the windmills, there's no happy medium, because it's gotta be under 2,000 feet. That's the problem. And that's something that's just, one time, let me finish, because I went back and read the rules, and I think I was erroneously interrupted last week.
Okay,
You had
let's-
2 minutes.
It never said mention
address the
names,
board.
but
Just
anyway,
address us.
I think we'll go back, and if you took the 2,000 out of it, that's not a common ground that you wanna get to, is it? No? Yes? I mean, as a group, you want more than 2,000. So how do we ever get there? Because they can't place windmills at 2,000 feet. They told you that, both groups did. And I have talked to Mid-American, and the thing about backing out of their contracts, I think most of the time, and I don't know where you're citing, but most of that comes from Wisconsin and the one outfit that went bankrupt. But Mid-American, and this is a verbal, you know, they said they've never renegotiated a contract on megawatt price. That's what they told me. Doesn't mean it's right, but that's what they told me. So that part of it, you know, it is what it is. Our agreement does say it's their problem. It has nothing to do with the county as far as decommissioning and stuff, decommissioning the windmills. But I want to go back to the supervisors. I wish you'd leave the existing ordinance that you have in place, you know, stand as recorded. And that's what I feel that I am part of that existing ordinance, windmill or not, and other in the group do too. And then deal with all other new applications on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I don't know, and it goes back to what he said about, you know, you have the ability to block them out. You're a more active, informed, and vocal group, and if you see another one coming in, do your due diligence and get it done. The thing that people say they never knew about this, I don't know how they didn't, because most of us landowners that were involved in it, everybody was almost contacted in our area, even out-of-state people. So, you know, if A talks to B, I mean, it all was there. It wasn't like it was a clandestine deal. They showed up in my feed store in their first round, and guys listened to his presentation. And this was for the first 3,000 acres. So, and it was people that weren't involved. So it wasn't like I say, it wasn't a clandestine operation, but I just don't know that there's a happy ground or happy medium. It doesn't say, ultimately, you don't want windmills, and I respect that, okay? I do, you know, but you're trying to stop me dead in my tracks, and you will on all of them. 2,000 foot doesn't work. So how are you gonna get a group together to mitigate a situation that's feasible for everybody without killing the thing?
Well, here's an idea. 0 foot setback distance for participating people, 2,000 for us, 2,500 for us that are not participating. You can have them all you want next to your house. Put 10 of them up, covering your house up. I don't care. But don't put them next to mine.
But then how close can I build to your fence line? Because you're
200.
wanting special preference for your land. What about my land? I want to build to the edge of my fence.
But you can't, because that affects like with my
See?
property.
My land now.
But
That
you
affects my property.
see where I'm going, you see where I'm going with that. What? I'm sorry.
I totally agree. We're not gonna make everyone happy. It don't matter. It's back to old buying a house or buying a car, and you go back and forth. But I think we can come to a better ground that will make everybody happy. You know, and maybe it is leaving it the 2,000, maybe it's going 2,500, but maybe it's putting the 2-mile zoning in for the towns. You know, there was a lot of stuff thrown out. I mean, my head was spinning last week when I left here, because it's like, you know, someone mentions Old Man Creek. I never even thought about that. You know, so I still go back to, let's have a small committee. If you don't even want us to voice as well, that's hard for me, but to at least sit there and bounce ideas around. Come together, again, like I said, all of this fighting and mimicking people on Facebook and the crap that's going around is ridiculous from both sides. So let's get a small group together and let's work on this together. Let's get an ordinance that will protect us now, down the road, protect Dale, you know, the wind, and protect those that do not want the wind turbines.
be my rebuttal. If you come, if you come in with a 2,000 foot or larger, I will never be in agreement with that, because you can't place them. You've killed it. Now, did I represent my constituents properly by saying, yes, let's kill this project today?
Well, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah.
It's, if you wanna put them on, I'm for alternative energy, okay? And I think most of the people in here are. And if you wanna put them on your property, fine, go ahead and do that. But I don't want it next to my property, because it's gonna decrease my property value. If you wanna put it next to your house, have at it. You know, that's fine. I mean, I'd like to ask each one of your board members, would you have one within 400 feet of your house, your own personal house?
I would.
Okay, there's one.
You haven't done the research. So much bad.
Kevin, what about you?
I know, I mean, I turned mine down.
And I wasn't asked.
But would you, he's
But
asking
if
you,
you were
would you?
asked, if you were
Well,
asked, you'd
that
have
would
to
be
take
a
it out.
discussion that we would have to have at home. I'm not gonna say one way or the other right here, because I do have a husband.
But that's where the problem lies.
That was nice.
And I agree, you know, I have talked to my husband, and I guess I'm thinking about my children. You know, I'm thinking about the kids that have ADHD, autism, and these things are getting built next to their house. And have you ever had to deal with kids with ADHD
Yes, I
and
have. I
autism?
worked in the school
Yeah.
district for 41 years.
Okay, have you ever drove down the road and cracked your window open and seen how they act when it's blowing in because you only have one window open? That is equivalent to what a turbine is next to a home. So please, again, think about a smaller group.
Sherry?
Like I said before, there are a lot of us landowners who are getting turbines that we're willing to have them in our backyard. You can't just stick it anywhere you want. It's gotta be so far from the neighbor's house. It had to be so far from bat habitat. We had too many ravines in our land to make an access road viable. So no, we're not getting one on our property. I'm getting one, I'm probably gonna be as close to turbines as anybody else in the county. We've got one that's gonna be less than half a mile from our house. We've got 4 that will be half a mile from our house and 10 within a mile. I'm from the school of thought that, like I said, we all had different sources of research that we trusted. I'm from the school of thought that that's not gonna affect us negatively at all. Not looking at them, not the health. We have a son who's a veterinarian. He is a PhD in pathology. He works as a board-certified pathologist and toxicologist. I trusted his insight on a lot of the health and the livestock issues that he's worried about, you know, people worry about. We've got 2 schools of thought here. You've got people here that are just convinced that they are gonna be sick, their animals are gonna be sick, it's gonna give them headaches, they're not gonna be able to sleep. And then you've got people that believe the science that I do, that it's not gonna negatively affect me. I'm just wondering where you're gonna get that middle ground with people. I'm all for an ordinance, you know. I don't want some big company like Mid-America able to just come in and walk all over us with no rules at all. And I think the ordinance you guys had in place to begin with was good. I didn't know that this was gonna be an educational meeting. I've got tons of research. I didn't bring any of it with me. I'll submit a lot of it to you. I'm of the school of thought that there are studies that show there are no health effects from it. And as my son's professor would tell him in vet school, you know, people are going into this thinking they're gonna be sick. But thank God nobody told the cows, because they aren't gonna know that they should be sick when these turbines go up next to them.
There are some studies though from other countries, specifically Germany, Finland, Portugal, that has shown negative
Australia.
effects to livestock. Something called boxy-foot to horses, that is a pretty uncommon disorder, but in this one particular farm that was close to wind turbines, they had four horses in a year, which is kind of an astronomical number for this particular disorder. And it was related to the infrasound, to not the noise that you hear, but the energy, the pressure that the wind turbines put off. So I think that there is research, not necessarily in the United States, because I feel like the United States hasn't done any long-term studies, but in other countries where wind turbines have been for much longer time, there are studies that show that there are hazards from the wind turbines, from the infrasound that's generated by the wind turbines.
And as she said, there's studies to show
Yeah.
that there's not.
Again, to
So-
my point, there's two schools of thought. I believe the studies,
That Power
That's-
Bio gave you?
Just depends on
no,
which
that my
side
son
you're on.
gave me. No, Power Up Iowa didn't give me any studies.
There are peer-reviewed studies showing the detrimental health effects, and we could produce those. Just saying somebody's opinion is, or the wind company's opinion, that is not a study.
If I hear the word peer reviewed one more time, I'm probably gonna scream, because all that is, okay, somebody who shares my opinion gave a review,
It's
and,
accountability through a scientist, you know.
and University of Iowa had a peer-reviewed study that showed there were no health effects, but you
Done
don't
by-
recognize that
Done
because.
by economic analysis,
Yeah.
Gabby, one
Let's
like
not
this.
interrupt. Okay.
I will show you the courtesy you're not showing me by not interrupting when you talk, okay? She interrupts everybody that starts talking.
Quiet. Denise, let's wrap. Denise, last
I
word.
just want to say something. And first of all, listen really good, John, because I'm gonna say something. You were right, okay? So you're probably never gonna hear me say that again, but I am now. Because one time you told me that I had blinders on when I looked at this. And you're right, I do, because right now, I live far enough away from any turbines that I don't think they're gonna bother me. So why am I here? My blinders are my grandchildren, boy and a girl. And everything I see is filtered through them and their future in this county, and where we're gonna live and what this county's gonna look like. And I think you guys kind of have blinders on too, though, and I think it has to do with the tax money. And I think that's unfortunate. As far as, and I already sent this to you, as far as if Mid-American can situate wind turbines with whatever setback, you know, I don't really know. But neither do you, because there aren't any other 600 or 650-foot wind turbines for us to look at to see how much noise do they put out, how much shadow flicker they put out, how much, is there any health effects? I don't know, but you don't know either, but there's no other energy, like gasoline companies are regulated. You know, natural gas companies are regulated. You said one time, somebody said, oh, well then I'll just put a landfill in my backyard, John, and you said, no, you can't, because I regulate the landfills, and you do, and there's a reason for that. And I'm one of those people that moved to this county to get away from zoning. I don't like zoning. I lived in Lynn County. I know what zoning can do. I know how arbitrary it can be. I know how an ordinance can be a slippery slope. But this project, wind turbines, it's an industrial use. And it's coming into an agricultural area. And I would say that this is probably the biggest thing that's ever come to this county in the history of the county.
I think maybe Interstate 80 was one of the things too, I'm hearing. And I also heard when electricity went through, it was chaotic.
But Vicki, these are 600, almost 600, not 600 foot, as Kevin would say, not 600 foot.
568.
578 feet is what they told me in energy. But, you know, I just think it's such a massive thing, and I know you didn't maybe try to keep it secret, but there were a lot of people that felt blindsided, and you can't deny that. So, you know, it was, you did your due diligence, you published it in the paper and the legal notices and whatever, and there were a few articles. Some, like I took one paper since I moved here, Journal Tribune, so if it wasn't the Journal Tribune, I didn't see it, I'm sorry. So I just really think that there's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of things, but it is something I think that does need some kind of regulation because it is affecting so many people. People that want it, and I want them to have it because I am for property rights. But I've got them too. I've got property rights too. And so and the cities have property rights. And you guys have to represent everybody. You can't just represent Mid-American, Invenergy, and the people who sign easements. There's other people out there too that are asking for representation. And that's what I want you, That's what I really think needs to be done because of the controversy, the size, the scope, and the fact that there's gonna be more coming. I think something needs to be done. I don't know what, something needs to be done.
Thanks, Denise.
The question, Mrs. Straightforward, you are going not to get one.
We're getting one on one of our parcels 3 miles away. We were
Okay.
not eligible to get one on our ground because it was gonna be too close to neighbors.
Question,
Yep.
in your contract, who is to pay the property taxes?
We pay our property taxes, the increase in property tax will be paid by Mid-American.
Is that in black and white?
Yes.
It-
Motion to adjourn.